There it is. The intro video has finished. Look out. Oh, you're going to steal my thunder here. It is Hollywood Matt Connelly with the double biceps. It is in the contractual legal requirement every single time we appear on camera. Oh, there it is. And the guest today, the man on the screen doing the double bicep flex as well with the epic beard. It is none other than the Viking himself. It is Tim Graham. Great to see you on the show. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, buddy. Yourself?
I'm going very, very well. We've got a winner of the first comment of the night. That was Richard Jennings again. He has pulled it out 3 times now since we started this competition. Terence Offerman, who you may be familiar with over in South Africa, one of the world's best arm wrestlers, and especially for the Southern Hemisphere, says hi. And French McGee has also jumped in with hey all. And we've got Brandon Chan with the Mr. Calf himself. Is apparently his legs are too muscular for his upper body, according to his DEXA scan. So,
yeah, right. Okay, I didn't know that was a problem. Is that like a medical condition?
I think it's him and cyclists that have that issue.
Yes,
not the long distance cyclists. The guys who do the sprint thing.
Yeah, what was that guy's name? Is it Robert Forster or something like that? No, there's this one guy that's like, he does sprint cycling, and there's just photos of his legs and his his quads are just like the sweep on the outside of his quads. It's almost like a semicircle. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so weird because their legs are enormous, and then there's this tiny little upper body.
yeah. Like put all your experience points just into legs.
That's right, absolutely.
In the game.
But French McGee says that she yells at Tim in Enraged Arm Wrestler. Obviously,
one day I'll get you, French.
Super match between Tim and French confirmed right there.
Yes.
Richard Jeddick says he is sitting here having his coffee. Well done to you. You were the first person to write a comment tonight. The man that maybe you guys aren't familiar with, Tim Graham, the man who started things off in the arm wrestling world here in South Australia, got things up and running and has been involved in the sport for over 10 years now, I believe. So,
and 2014.
There you go. So, 11 years. And so tell us about how it all started for you in the world of arm wrestling.
Yeah, right. So me and a friend were going to the Adelaide Fitness Expo. It's just a big, fitness expo that was happening in Adelaide, and just happened to see arm wrestling there. So what had happened is the Australian Arm Wrestling Federation had come to South Australia. There was no arm wrestling in South Australia, but they had come to South Australia just to put on a bit of a like an exhibition event, if you will. They ran a small tournament, and me and my mate saw it, and we were like, oh, we'll give it a go. And at the time, you actually had to pay to enter. And it was a bit more like, we didn't really go with any money to the event. We just kind of went to check it out. And then one of the guys was like, oh, look, just sign here and don't worry about paying. You can go in the event, which is don't tell the committee.
Right.
But it was really good. So we were like, heck yeah, free arm wrestling. Let's do it. And I was pretty strong in the gym. At the time I was deadlifting 200 for a double, squatting 200 for a double. Bench was average. But yeah, average for a double, correct. But I was, reasonably gym strong, and so was my mate. But we knew nothing about arm wrestling other than just we arm wrestled each other and our brothers and stuff. And so went and entered the event, had a crack. I actually have footage. I won undefeated. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
all the classes, even the women's. No, I got destroyed. I actually have a video from the very first match I ever had in an arm wrestling tournament, which is cool considering it was back in 2014, but it's horrific. It looks terrible. Basically just like
I like the stance that you had.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just like you went.
I'm like straight up, and I'm just so yeah. That was fun. Actually, no, that was my second match that I got the video of. The first match was actually against Phil Rasmussen, the president of the AAF.
Oh,
and
you wanted to start you off.
Correct. And I remember we gripped up, and like I was like just squeezing the heck out of his hand because that's what you do when you don't know what you're doing. And I remember him loading up at the like before the go, and then the referee said go, and he just knew that I had nothing. And I just felt him go from like rock solid holding on hard to just like backing off. Like he just would have dropped like probably 50% of his effort, and he just really gently just top rolled me. He looks at me and just straight to the pad. And that was when, just in that split second, that was when I knew that there was something special about arm wrestling, because I knew that he had just backed off 50% and still smoked me like super easy.
Yeah, that was nice
And
of him,
then,
though.
yeah, it was like he didn't smash me or anything. Like I think he felt me squeezing real hard at the start, so he was prepared in case I was strong, but I wasn't. I thought I was strong, but I wasn't.
I love the
So,
fact that
and
your
then
first experience at it was a bloody Superman, like a proper ready go start in a tournament.
yes, that was literally my first. No, there was no club, so I couldn't go train with anyone. And so anyway, went through that tournament. Also, I got to meet Gunter's Bykovs. He wasn't training in SA or anything. He was just training by himself. Because there was no club. I met a couple other South Australian guys that just happened to be at the expo that had sort of dabbled into state with some arm wrestling. And I got to see Gunter's Bykovs probably at his peak around that time, 2014 to 2016. And he had a match. He had like the finals versus Doug Fatafei in that tournament up on stage. And he was just like unstoppable. Doug hit and Gunter's didn't move. And like as a impressionable 24-year-old that just got smoked, 2-0 or 0-2, should I say? It was very impressive to see. So I caught up with him after, said, "Hey, let's try and train together if we can, like if you're open to it." And he said, "Yep, that'll be great. You organize it and we'll do it." And so I got a couple of mates together, a couple of guys that I'd got contact at the expo, and then maybe like 2 months later, we had our first training session. Yeah, and
how did that go?
it was good because like thankfully we had Gunter's, right? So like literally the number one pullet in Australia at the time, but like by far, he had come from he'd come from America directly before Australia, but Latvia prior to that, and he was a previous. I don't think he won Europeans, but he'd competed and done quite well there. He'd competed at Worlds. He'd been pulling for 15 years, I think. So to have that kind of instruction early on, he was great, so it was really good to have that very early on. But we were all hopeless, like we were just terrible.
Yeah, I'm just bringing up footage of Gunter's here going up against Marcus Attirai, but that's Gunter's
Yes.
on the left there with the glasses. But yes, an Australian champion multiple times. You couldn't have gotten a better person to get on the table with for your training, really.
Yeah.
But he did live a couple of hours away from the city, though, doesn't he?
Yeah. He back then he lived in the Barossa, and we were in the basically the CBD of Adelaide. So he was over an hour away, or about an hour. And then there was a guy that lived down south, probably towards your way, Matt, and he used to drive 2 hours to get to Gunter's.
Wow.
And then 2 hours back. So eventually we tried to have some sessions at Gunter's place, some sessions. I'm talking Gunter's up and you play a video where he gets beaten.
That's all right. He does come back to win.
Yeah, but we ended up having a few sessions at my place, a few sessions at some of the other guys' places back then. But back then, I think the very first session there was Gunter's, myself, and 3 other guys.
Right.
At the very first training session. I've got a photo somewhere of who was there. And then it fluctuated for a long time. I think in the early days, probably the biggest we got was about 10 guys in the club. But yeah, it fluctuated up and down quite a bit there. So
There you go.
but training with Gunther's was great because he's got that Eastern European way of speaking where it's very direct. There's not a lot of pleasantries. And I remember one time he was trying to teach me how to top roll and, use my hand. And he's like, Tim, your hand is like a wet tissue. He's like, your hand is so weak. And inside, I'm just like crying, I'm like, please. But, it was what I needed to hear, though, because, it was just so blunt. And it wasn't like, I'm trying not to hurt your feelings. He's just like, it's so weak. So it was awfully, awfully funny. But, it gave me the kick up the butt I needed, and I started training. And he was a big proponent of fingertip push-ups.
Oh, yeah.
From the early days. I think a lot more people should do them. But he, at 125 kilos, he does fingertip push-ups on just his 4 fingers, like this, so no thumbs. So at 125 kilos, he's just pressing like this, for like 20 reps, which is insane. I have never been able to do more than maybe 2 without thumbs at, like 95 to 100 kilo. And he's just like bang, 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 like it's nothing, so gives you a bit of an idea of just how strong he is.
Oh, yeah. Ridiculous.
And he barely trains as well. Like, I don't think there's been a period in the last 15 years that he's trained like anyone trains now. Like all the guys now are, basically athletes, and many of them are athletes. And, he's just like, he'll go into the garage once a week and, lift a couple of weights, and he'll be like, yeah, I trained this week. But then he signed up to the gym. I remember one year with one of his sons. His son was like 14 at the time, and so they joined the gym, and he went in untrained, hadn't benched in like 10 years, and went in and benched 140 kilo. Like, just, like, no worries, mate. Just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, the pure athlete, and you can see it when you meet him, and just looking at his legs, his structure, his physique. He just looks like he could do any sport, no matter what it was, and be successful.
Absolutely. I remember he challenged me to a standing long jump, because I've got good genetics for jumping. Like, I always have. Played basketball. I could out jump most of the guys, even the 7-foot guys that I used to play against and stuff. And so he found out I could jump, and so he was like, this is, and mind you, I was 90 kilo at the time, maybe 87, 88, something like that. And he's 125 kilo, and he's like, come on, let's go. And I was like, are you for real? Like, I'm going to smoke you. And I only just beat him by like maybe half a foot.
Wow.
Like, in a standing like long jump. I couldn't believe it. I'd never seen someone that big move like that. I was, very impressed.
Yeah,
but I still beat him, so that's,
well, of course, yeah.
He's second place, so.
That's exactly right. But didn't you say that when you be training with him, that you would be giving it absolutely everything, and he would sort of, give you space or whatever, and as soon as he would put pretty pressure, you would just let your arm go?
Yeah, correct. Used to annoy the heck out of him because I would redline, try everything, and then the minute my arm started going back, I'd just bail on it, and he'd be like, "Why do you do that?
Let me work as well."
Nah, he got plenty of chances to work. In the early days, he had this real thick rubber tubing, like solid rubber tubing, and he used to wrap it around the opposite leg to the arm he was pulling. And then he would grab your hand as well. So this is like doubled up rubber tubing, probably I'd say about a centimeter in diameter, like thick. And like this thing, like you'd pull it with 2 hands and it would stretch like this, like barely move. And he would just tear through us, like one after the other, all night. And then he'd be like, oh yeah, that was a good workout. And we're all like on the floor crying. But
yes,
yeah,
absolutely. No. Oh, he's an absolute monster of a man. I think I found a video here. I might have the fingertip push-ups that he does in this video. Let me see if I can just bring that up.
Oh,
Here.
okay.
This was a while ago when we went out for that training session.
Yeah,
look, I
that's
didn't have the beard or anything back then. That's how
Leon
long ago
there.
it was. Yeah, Leon and Taryn in the back. What have we got? That's me attempting to do anything.
Yeah.
Failing miserably.
You're helping him create a highlight reel.
That's right. That's right. But I swear that we've got the fingertip push-ups in here at some point, and I think you got down and did some as well. Oh, it might not be on this video; it might be on another one. But yes, you can see.
I remember
Taryn
Taryn trying as well.
Yes, so yeah, I think you were able to do the fingertip push-ups pretty comfortably, and obviously Gunter's was just banging them out.
Oh, there's Cohen in the background.
Yep. That's
hey.
Right. There's Taryn Broad. So this
I'd love to see Taryn. I'd love to see Taryn in a hook with Gunter's now. It'd be quite interesting.
Absolutely.
I think it'd be alright. I mean, Gunter's wouldn't stay in a hook with him.
No, this is what's fun about being able to go back and look at videos from several years ago and then seeing the progression of each person and being like, wow, it's like, oh, I remember this guy, or this guy was so strong, or yeah, seeing Gunter's able to control Taryn so comfortably there, but then the question mark now would be, well, I don't know how it would go.
Look at that skinny guy.
Yeah, look at this guy. He looks exactly the same as you.
Yeah.
Same haircut, same beard.
Except even smaller.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you've worked out with Gunter's a few times. We've got a good comment here from the Arm historian that says that he forgets that a couple of hours away is a different country where he is from.
Yes.
Sometimes he forgets how fortunate he is that he can pull in his backyard. French following that up with that she touched on how distance in Australia affects the ability to have as many cross-competition events with other clubs here as opposed to the US and other countries. Yes, it can be a limiting factor.
There was a.
So you go.
Sorry, there was an English guy that used to train in our club probably for the first 6 years, quite religiously. He was one of the. I think he came probably to the second or third club session we had, but he was coming mostly to my place and not Gunter's because he's like, in England, we don't travel, like 20 minutes is like no one travels that far. Like 20 minutes is like going to another country. He's like, I'm not driving 20 minutes to anyone's house for anything, and I'm like 20 minutes doesn't even get you out the suburb here.
20 minutes to get to the shops.
Yeah, correct.
You can literally drive for like 12 hours in one direction here and still be in the same state.
Yes, correct. It's wild in Australia.
Absolutely. David Hux is here. He also says, was Ryan McLaren one of your training partners before the club started, Tim?
So Ryan McLaren joined the club after we'd started, but quite early on. Like I'd say he was probably in the first 6 months Ryan McLaren joined in. So yeah, very strong from the word go. Just had a rock solid hand and great like brachialis, like bicep. Just back pressure was just crazy strong. His wrist was iron. Yeah, and he still pulls the same pretty much as he did when he first started. Like he's a little better in terms of technique and everything like that, but still just super strong. Yeah, it's very, very strong. I've only ever beaten him once on fouls.
Oh, that was because you messed around so much he got frustrated.
Yeah. He ended up getting frustrated and then fouled out.
That's because you just wouldn't let your hands settle, and he was like, forget it.
Yeah. And then it was in a ref grip, and he lifted his elbow up. So I was like, the ref grip, what are you doing? And they fouled him.
Oh,
so I'll take it.
There you go.
Yeah.
David Jansen is here. He is from Canada, one of the young men out there promoting the sport of arm wrestling and doing a great job. He has his own podcast that he's been doing. Phil Woody is also in the chat here. He says hello. He says good evening to the Aussie bros. I think it's early morning over in the UK at the moment.
Phil Woody UK. He always used to be on Neil's videos. He probably still is, to be fair. I remember watching Neil's podcasts and stuff he used to do, and Phil Woody UK used to pop up there all the time.
Yeah, he's a great
Yeah.
guy. He does a lot for the sport of arm wrestling over in the UK for sure. Kiwi Sam is here. He says, "Very bearded podcast tonight, gents. Tim is the man who will really f your day up if you're across from him on the table." Yes, it's an intense experience going against this gentleman here. I'd love to talk about your process going into a match. I think I was mentioning this the other day, and I was comparing you to Matt Mask. You know, with that
Mm.
ability to really hype yourself up before you get
Except
on
I
the
can arm
table.
wrestle.
Oh no! And what it is, I don't know. You'll fire yourself up and get on the table and it's if you get that win, there is an explosion of yelling and celebration that comes with it.
Yes, there is.
Where is all that coming from?
I don't know. I've always been like a very like emotion based sort of like sportsman and stuff. Like even when I played basketball for many years, like if I blocked someone's shot, like and it was a big block and it looked good, I would always get like amped up and like not yelling their face, but I'd be like woo, like getting up in them and stuff and stirring them up. And because you're just getting in their head, and when it came to arm wrestling, I think because it's such an aggressive sport, it's probably the closest sport you can get that to fighting without actually getting punched in the face. And so there's that real masculine aggression that you can take out on someone with still some restraint. And I don't know, like with arm wrestling, just almost immediately, yeah, when I win, I just get this insane rush of like emotion and aggression, and it's nothing personal. Like I'm sure some people hate it. I think as well because like a lot of people like on the internet might complain about it and go, "Oh, this guy's a knob," and if he did that to me, I'd punch his lights out and stuff. But I think what they don't see is that like off the table or off the match, I'm like completely the opposite.
Yeah.
And they see like they don't see that, so they just see me screaming in someone's face like Kiwi Sam. To be fair, with Kiwi Sam, he's got some weird kink, right? Right before that match, he goes, if you beat me, can you please scream in my face?
Wow.
And I was like, you're gonna get it anyway. And then I just added a little bit extra Salt Bay on that. That particular one.
Well,
when I did beat him.
I've got a good one here of you yelling and Leon.
Oh yeah, this is a good one.
I think I'll see if we put the sound on even. All right.
Have a look at that.
Oh, and a big pin from the Viking. He had complete hand control. I think it shows it in slow mo as well. So you get.
I had everything there. Absolutely everything.
Bang in your face.
see that as well. That was a fun event because it was a little bit sort of exhibition based. But I was feeling really good at that stage in my training. Nothing hurt. I hadn't even been training for that match specifically. And then I knew we were putting on a show because we were at the DFC MMA event, and I remember just sort of getting in with the crowd and hamming it up a bit, and like I had people coming up after me because I was screaming and carrying on, and I think it makes it a spectacle to watch, if nothing else. People are sort of coming up and like, man, that was wild. Like that was so cool.
It was amazing. It was an amazing event. But both matches that we put on that night were stellar and
barn burners.
Yeah, so you can see Leon, for people who missed it, Leon getting the pin in the second round and having his own moment of yelling back at you.
yeah, and I love that. Like I love it when people fire up with me and not look at me just shaking my head there.
I think he concedes in this round because you've just got absolutely everything.
Yeah, because I just bled him dry because I wanted to hook with him at the end for fun. I think the last match I hooked with him. And I just wanted to bleed him out and, make sure that in the hook I could have a good war and not lose it, embarrass myself after all the yelling and screaming. Yeah, see, I'm waving my finger to the camera.
Yeah, that's right.
No.
Great moment here. You've got everything. Leon knows you've got everything. He lays his arm down for you.
Yeah.
I
think, this one I just sink straight into a hook. And Leon's strong though. Like that was one of those reasons I bled him in that previous round, because I knew that if I hadn't really been training for him specifically, so I knew if I mucked around too much, he'd make me pay for it.
Yep.
See here, he's trying to reverse it.
Yeah, trying to get pronation. He's not going anywhere. Deep breath. You're just holding him, not letting him go anywhere.
It's
When's
good
the
fun.
hit gonna come? There it is.
Yeah. that's my Facebook profile picture where I'm like hanging on to him and like just screaming out out the side. Yeah. Where like right go back. Yeah, just here that right there is like my Facebook profile picture. it's one of them. It's such a good photo.
Oh, it's an amazing moment. Yeah, so here you've gone, that's enough. I've got what I need. I'm going to win now. And here it comes. Bang.
Yeah.
I love it. Fantastic.
I felt so sorry for Leon that night because, like, I probably hammed it up quite a bit more than I normally would. And there was all those people watching. And I remember before the match, like, we were, just sort of talking, and he was so nervous. I could see he was just so nervous. Where I'd been in that sort of environment before. Maybe not that many people, but it didn't bother me being on stage in front of like 500 people. But for him, I don't think he'd ever been in that event, like that sort of event environment. And you could see his face was just pale. Like you could tell he was feeling sick to his stomach before the match. And whereas I was just like, let's go, like, like I'm just going to make this fun for people to watch. And I think I did that. It ended up being quite good.
Absolutely.
Quite a good event.
What an amazing moment. And French McGee says that if you yelled in her face, then she would cry, and she still thinks that you're a jerk off of the table too. Then she said, I joke, he's all right off the table. It doesn't say that you're great. She says you're all right. He's all right.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
The arm screen. Oh, sorry, you go.
No, I'm gonna have to just move so I can get to a charger because
that's fine. You do that.
This unit is gonna die. Yeah, give me 1 second. Can I?
Yeah, you go ahead, mate. I'll catch up on these comments that people have written in here. The arm historian saying that
I'm still on that.
Yeah, right. Everyone pulls in a different way. That I perform way better at the table when I'm relaxed. It is interesting, and then trying to find that style that works for you, and whether it's needing to fire yourself up or needing to be relaxed, or and you only discover that through competing. It's like, what did I do that was different? How did I feel? Was I angry that day? And maybe that's what I need to channel to get in and be as strong as possible. So the arm historian, the thing that works best for him is that he does it when he's relaxed. Tim Graham has his own YouTube channel there as well, which you can check out, and puts up lots of great content on there. Dominic Lawrence is here. He says hello to you, Dominic. And Tim defeated me at Over the Top 2. I look forward to the one day. And hopefully we'll see that. And Bill says go and sub to the AWE channel, which is AWE Underground. That would be fantastic if you want to do that. Be very much appreciated. Do you remember that match with Dominic?
I don't remember the one at Over the Top 2, but I remember Dominic. He's been in the sport for quite a while in Australia, possibly even longer than me. I started in sort of mid-2014.
We've lost your audio for some reason. We can't hear you, Tim. Whatever you did, your audio has stopped. You might have bumped a cable or something, but we can't hear you. Can't hear. I hope it's not my end. No, I've got sound. You might have to refresh yours, mate, because I can't hear anything you say. That's all right. Well, while you're organising that, yeah, I don't know if you changed your headphones or something like that, but it's yeah, I can see your mouth moving, but there's no sound. If you just refresh, it should load you straight back in. But yeah, over the top two, that was a great tournament that they held, the AAF. Yeah, we can hear Matt, not Tim. Yes, he'll be back, I'm sure, once he refreshes his thing. It was all working fine and dandy, and we're looking forward to hearing the comments from Tim Graham, the man who started off the arm wrestling scene here in South Australia. Tim's mic cut out, so he can't yell at French, says Brandon Chan. Well, maybe that's a possibility. Could be a reason. Yes, French McGee desperately not wanting to have a match with Tim Graham because of that. Love technology for that. Yes, that's all right. We'll get there. I'm sure he'll be back in a second. There he comes. I heard the little beep noise that he's back. And we've got a great shot of a roof, I think. There he is.
There we go.
And we got
Sorry,
your sound. That's all right.
Yeah, I got my sound back. I don't know what happened there.
That's all right. We can hear you now. Yeah, Brandon says that your microphone cut out so that you weren't able to yell at French.
French is like hacking in the background.
That's right. That's right. And so, like, I mean, 11 years in the sport, where has it progressed from where you started to where it is at this point?
So it's very different. When I started, literally no one knew what arm wrestling was as a sport. Like to the point where if you said to someone, I do arm wrestling, like people would either laugh, or just be like, what do you mean? Yeah. Like people just didn't even believe you. Like it wasn't oh, that's cool. Like it was just like, are you for real? Like, what even is that? You know, like how is that a thing? So it's very different. It's very different to what it is now. But there was something really cool about the sport back then because it was so niche. The people in the sport, one, they were quite niche as well, to be fair, some of them for better or worse. But like there was this real camaraderie that I've never found in any other sport or field that I've been in. Like people just, if you were an arm wrestler, even if you had nothing else in common with this person, like they would treat you like family. It was really odd. Like back in 2014, 2015, I could have traveled to Europe, contacted someone on a Facebook page and gone, "Hey, I'm an Australian arm wrestler. I wanna like see if I can catch up with someone." And then, like if I needed a bed to sleep in, they would have just been like, "Hey, dude, come stay at mine." And like while you still get some of that, and I think some of the old guard in the sport still do, like a lot of the newer guys coming through never experienced that. It's almost like a different generation in that. So some of that's fallen away, and as well, there's so many people in the sport now. It's maybe a little you don't quite know who you're dealing with. Whereas because it was such a niche thing back then, if they were an arm wrestler, you knew that they were like a kindred spirit, if you will. So yeah, but for better or worse, I mean, the thing we didn't have is any popularity. Like you'd go to an event and it was 20 pullers, their mum, their sister, their brother as fans, and you'd be pulling in a car park or a pub or something like that. Whereas now we've got like all these amazing side events and things and leagues. It's not just WAF or like competition just for the competitors in that stale refereeing sort of sense. Although I do value those competitions, you've got like entertainment versions of it, WAL, AWE, and like many others like that. So yeah, it's slightly different. Like it still retains a lot of the good things. At least our club does. Our club has a very welcoming and ego-free training environment. And I find a lot of people have stayed in our club just because of the people in the club. Like they just love coming and shooting the breeze with people and training and having a good time.
Yeah, it's such an impactful thing from a community aspect. And there's people that will come along each week that are injured or they're not going to train, but they just want to come and hang out and talk to everyone.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, it's all my friends. They're going to be at the club, and there's 30, 40 of us that are going to be down there, and they end up on the table regardless. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not going to train tonight, and then 5 minutes
Yeah.
later, you see them,
yeah, holding their elbow, tears running down their face. Another month added to the injury return.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, that community aspect of it, I've definitely experienced that. Like all around the world from the arm wrestling scene, which is incredible. I mean, India and in Ireland and all over America, where it feels like you could message someone and say, "Hey, look, I'm from Adelaide or whatever. I'm going to be in town for a tournament. I'm looking for accommodation. Can you help me out?" And they're like, "Oh, you can stay with me." It's like, I've never met you, but sure.
Yeah. I don't want to stay with you.
No, you're staying with me.
Yeah. Permanently.
That's right. But and even the elite guys.
Good.
Oh yeah, I mean, even the elite guys in the sport, and maybe a couple now that you couldn't really get a response from, but I mean, if you message any of these top guys, they'll probably write back to you,
Yeah.
And it's like, what other sport that's out there could you do that with, really? I mean, I'd say it's probably only Ivan and Devin that are just overwhelmed with messages that wouldn't have the opportunity to be able to write back. Apart from them, I mean, anybody else, it's like you write to Ryan Bowen, he's going to write back. You write to you, you're probably going to reply. There's so many people around the world that are into this sport that are accessible and want you to be a part of it. And it's sort of like, when somebody comes along that's new, it's like, everyone's really nice, friendly. It's like, please enjoy yourself. Like, we want you to stay, and we love this thing, and we want you to love it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's that was the thing. Arm wrestling quite a polarizing sport, I think, as well, because it has such a high barrier to entry in terms of physical pain. It's one of those things. There's a lot of ego attached. You always grew up arm wrestling your mates, and whoever could beat everyone else was, the man. And there's a lot of that masculine ego attached to, being able to win an arm wrestle. And then you go train with a club, and you're the weakest person there. Like the little guys are beating you. You come up against like some of the female pullers, and you're like, "Oh, well, I'll be fine here," and then they beat you as well, and you're just like, what the heck am I doing with my life?
It's all a lie.
Yeah, exactly. You think you're the man, and then you go to a club and you realize you're nothing when it comes to, and most professional sports are like that. You go to a club of, boxers with no boxing training, you don't think you're going to beat everyone up, like, unless you're, a few screws loose, but for some reason arm wrestling's so accessible. You go, oh, well, I can do that, and then you go to an arm wrestling club where everyone's been training for 5 years specifically for that sport, and for some reason you think you're going to beat them, so
yeah,
it's
it is funny. I mean, do you still get that now? Like, if you meet somebody new, like outside of the arm wrestling world, and they say, well, "What do you do for fun, or what are your hobbies, or whatever?" And you say, "Oh, I do arm wrestling," and do they say, "Oh, do you think you could beat me?" like straight away.
No, so that would have used to happen. Nowadays, I think because the sport has grown so much, and we've had some amazing media exposure from guys like Larry Wheels, Jujamufu, and a bunch of other big names. It's become common enough that when you say I'm an arm wrestler, people actually, like, there's almost a little bit of aura, if you will, where people are like, like I actually want to have a go just to see how strong you are. Like they just want to know how much worse they are as opposed to how good they are, sort of thing. But occasionally you'll still meet a freak out there that you're like, you feel them and you're like, oh, I don't want to hurt you. I'll just, like, oh yeah, you're really strong, maybe you should come down to the club, and meanwhile you're like, man, if I had actually tried, I probably would have got embarrassed. But
What was it? You had
um,
somebody that was quite a big guy, and then you were showing him what to do, and obviously the same thing with every new person is, you're allowing that person to win over and over while you're explaining how to do it. Didn't he say to you, like, so who in here is actually good?
it's happened before. Yeah. Correct. Sometimes you get that, and you're like, your ego's like, did I break this dude's arm? And then you're like, nah, he'll never come back. It'll take a few weeks. And normally they do. Like, they'll either walk away from the club thinking that, oh, like, I went to an arm wrestling club and no one beat me, so then they just don't come back. Or after a couple of weeks of returning, people start turning it up a little bit once you know that their arm's not going to turn to powder. And then they're like, oh, actually, these dudes are really strong. They were just taking it easy on me, or you injure them and then they never come back. So you got to check your ego a bit, and even if they're quite cocky and stuff. I remember earlier on, probably like 2 or 3 years in, we had this guy, big dude, big gym guy, and he went there and he was just always, shoulder committed, all side pressure, and we're all sort of holding on, trying to give him a little bit of resistance, but like not break his arm. And and we're all like, oh man, you're really strong, like you're doing a good job. And he went through the whole night, and at the end of it, he's kind of like, oh, like I thought you guys would be way stronger. And we're all just sitting there like, yeah, we're just, trying to keep you safe. And he's like, whatever. And I was just like, all right, dude, like, because that's it, like, it's a real risk, like there's not many other sports that, like on your first training session, you could walk away with a serious injury, like, unless someone was trying to purposely hurt you, like, whereas in arm wrestling, you can very easily get a serious injury if you're strong enough to break your own arm, essentially, like, which with a lot of gym guys, that's quite possible, especially, with some PEDs and things like that, which can make bones more brittle and things depending on what you're taking. And, your muscles are super strong. And some of those guys out there, their bones are like, just turned to dust. You look at them wrong. So, yeah, it's, after 6 months, you kind of get an idea, all right, they're pretty sturdy and that. But the first couple of weeks, at least, you're like, I don't want to break your arm, dude. Like, it's not that hard. It's pretty easy to break your arm.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this is the thing is, what I love with the culture of the sport, and I see it every week at the club, is that when new people come in, regardless as to who they get on the table with, everyone allows them to get position and work, and then as they start to grasp the idea of the movements, then they start to sort of make it a little bit more difficult. And you see that progression over 10 minutes or something like that. And now it's like, okay, you're getting the idea of, let's say, a top roll, you're getting the idea of the movement. That's fantastic. Now I'll show you what I would do to stop you from being able to do that. So you try and do the same thing again, and they try to move, and you just like don't let them cut.
Stonewall them.
Yeah, and they're like, and it's like, so you see, like, that's one of the things that you've got to get good at, is having strength in your hand and wrist, and you can explain things from there. But it's a progressive way to learn that keeps them safe, and then they have a very clear understanding that, well, this is the way that I've got to do it, and then it's like, and they can just shut me off of that instantly.
So, absolutely.
Yeah, Gunther's Bike Ops has jumped in the comments here. He has got an arm wrestling table for sale at the moment.
Not an arm wrestling table, the arm wrestling table.
Arm wrestling table it is.
This
got a photo of
this arm wrestling table was made by Adam Stefanik, who is a very early arm wrestler from Queensland. He probably started arm wrestling about 2012, 2013. That table is made very well and very sturdy. I think it weighs about 80 kilo.
82
the table
kilos.
82 kilos. And it is a unit, but it was built to handle, 250 kilos worth of, pullers on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, Gunter's is selling it for the low price of $500, I think. So
Yeah,
it's
right.
it is that is a table you can pass down to multiple generations should you wish to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyone who's interested, you can either contact myself or Tim or Gunters. But I
Give
believe
me
we.
the money and go pick it up from Gunter's.
Yeah, historians in disbelief that it's 82. It is that thing
Yes,
is made of
82 kilograms.
made of
Not
iron.
joking. It is very sturdy.
It's
It
not
is
moving
very
once you put
sturdy.
it there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let me catch up on the comments here quickly. Where
Did I when my mic cut out and everything, Dominic, I don't know if he responded. Did he respond there at all regarding when he started?
No, he says, well done for reffing. And then he says, cool. And then he says, true.
Yeah.
Oh, and then he said, LOL.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all very, very insightful moments there from
Dominic, if you're still on, when did you start pulling?
Yeah, we'll find out. Taryn Broad has
Yeah.
also jumped in here as well. One of the guys that has been at the club for quite some time, probably around 8 years maybe. And he says that arm wrestling has got a lot more popular. I get asked if I'm an arm wrestler a few times a week now. Even got some people to come to the club. Is that because you wear a T-shirt that says I'm an arm wrestler? Ask me about it, Taryn.
Yeah. That is the only reason.
We go, oh, you an arm wrestler? Oh, well, fancy you would ask.
Yeah. Can't believe this keeps happening.
Yeah, it's so weird. French McGee says, when I say I'm an arm wrestler, guys say, yeah, but I'd still beat you.
You mean Ryan Burden?
Yeah, we believe they have a match coming up, maybe this weekend. French says, it sucks. Sometimes it's nice teaching them that they're wrong, though. I believe she has beaten several men at arm wrestling. I love hearing a woman say she's into arm wrestling. We need more in the sport. Absolutely. Abel Robertson, who is one of the young men from the SA Titans Club, is doing quite well. He says, I still lose to girls in church, bro. Forget people like French. Why are you arm wrestling people in church?
They got the strength of the Holy Spirit, bro.
French says that she agrees 100%. She would be stoked to have more women in the club. Absolutely. And Abel, that's a lie, and I know it. Abel says, you're anti-top roll, anti-hook. I don't even know what to do against the flop. Just have to grab super low and cup for any chance at all not slipping.
Abel, I've got bad news for you, buddy. You're just not strong enough.
Dominic says, so I was new, Tim. Doesn't answer the question.
When were you new? Over the top two?
Mid-2021, our match was over before I knew what happened. You top rolled me. So he was new at the over the top, and maybe he hasn't.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking of someone else then, another Dominic. But yeah, no, Dominic Lorenz. I can't see. Yeah, I'd have to see a picture of you, mate. I probably remember once I saw a picture of you. But
I can bring him up for you. But yeah, he can't. Well, actually, you weren't there. That doesn't help. I was going to say he was at that event we had in Queensland that you weren't at.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
That one.
That guy.
It's that guy that you didn't meet or didn't see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what about for you with the sport? Where are you looking at this point in time? Like, what's your goals? What's your thoughts on career wise?
So I've been away from competing and really training for a little while for it. Taryn's responded there. I wear a sign that says, "Ask me about my wrestling." Nice one. So yeah, I've been away for I'd say almost 2 years from training hard and consistently. But recently started getting right back into it. So I'm starting to train back in the gym a bunch, arm wrestling. And yeah, it's good. Once I get back some sort of shape for arm wrestling, I'll probably look at competing again in the not too distant future. Maybe in the next 6 months or something like that. I'll look at having a crack at some event, depending on what's on, whether it's something interstate or AWE, depending on what they've got coming up. But yeah, just need to get back into some shape, because while I've still got all the technique and that, I'm definitely missing some horsepower. And a lot of the guys coming up now have a lot of horsepower as standard, and they're learning the technique. So it's trying to build up some horsepower again. And not that I was ever a horsepower monster, to be fair, but you know, I can always work on that. You know, one thing I've always struggled with is being real consistent with, like, I guess, training regime. I've always tended to, like, I'll try training a certain way for a little while and then I'll change it again, but you know, that kind of gets in the way of actually seeing solid gains and being able to track, you know, and actually know how strong you're getting. So it's I mostly win by cheating and treachery. So
yeah, stabbing
you know,
and
yeah,
tickling.
a win is a win. And in French's case, I just scream at her and she turns into a bubbling mess, and then I pin her and then scream again.
She jumps, like, when I say go, you know, I yell my go, like it makes her elbow foul because she's like, ah. We've got some great footage of you as doing your refereeing duties, which you've helped us out enormously with AWE, and you've done a tremendous job each time you've stepped up. Right here, we've got Brett Coutts versus Rickert Bornman at the AWE 3 Grand Prix event that happened recently. How do you feel with your refereeing style? I mean, to me, like, seeing the way that you go about it is very confident. Your decision making is fair, and you communicate very well with both guys, and argument anything. How do you feel with that?
Yeah, so obviously for the AWE events, I referee in a way. Sorry, French. Not really. Sorry, not sorry. In the AWE events, I referee in a way that you guys want your event refereed. So it's far less strict if you compare it to something like WAF. And there's a reason for that, is because, I mean, it's in the name, you know, it's entertainment. And some of the most amazing potential matches in the history of arm wrestling have been ruined by microfouls, moving in a referee's grip, and all this sort of stuff. Now, obviously, the principle of, you know, referees' grips and things like that is to maintain the rules. But because I've been in the sport a long time, I've refereed a lot. I'm also someone who's quite picky about the setups, you know, for myself as a competitor. So I know what guys are trying to achieve, and when they're cheating, you know, and when they're cheating in a way that's not allowed. So because of that experience, I'm able to know when guys can move and can't move, and whether it affects the outcome of the match or not. So that allows me to, you know, start a match, ignore some of the little moving about, like the comments on Brett and Rickett's video on YouTube is, you know, people are like, oh, Rickett's a cheater, he's moving. Other people are like, you know, commenting about Brett, and like it's fine, you know, like sometimes their moving makes it a little slower to start the match, but after the match, both those athletes came up and said thank you for the refereeing. Neither of them felt like they got screwed out of anything. You know, they complain during the match, but that's because they're professional competitors. You know, if you're not complaining and trying to get every advantage you can, you know, are you even a professional competitor? So
yeah, that's right. It is interesting when people watch the differences between organizations, and they expect that the rules are going to be the same for everywhere. And it's always kind of amusing to me to see comments that it's like, oh, obviously this person's an East versus West fan or a WAF fan, because you know, they're very, very picky about certain. It's like, that's not a rule for us. Like, we deliberately got rid of that because it ruins the spectacle of watching the match.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you're trying to ref like a WAF event, my refereeing looks terrible, you know, because I'm not refereeing like that. I can referee like that. Now, I'm not saying I'm at, you know, that I would get accepted into WAF, you know, as a referee, but with a bit of training, and certification, I could do that. I've reffed WAF style events that are much stricter. Wrists are perfect, knuckles are perfect, shoulders are perfect. Someone has a tiny little bobble off the start and the match is over. I can do that, but if you want to watch a good arm wrestling match, that's not the way to do it. I would say, if I get why they do it at Worlds, they do it like that because they don't care if you foul out. They've got 3,000 competitors to get through in 7 days. So they're not interested in whether you have a good tournament. they just want to get through the tournament and crown the winner, and you go home crying. Whereas when you're training for a super match at AWE, WAL, or some other premium event that's based around entertainment, you're trying to see the match between Brett Coots and Rickett Borman. You're trying to see who's the better man, not the referee. You're not trying to see how many fouls can this referee give people. So I'm sitting there, all I'm trying to do is start the match in a way that neither of the guys gets screwed. And I think I did that successfully. I mean, the competitors were happy, the promoters were happy, and some random people on the internet weren't. So,
yeah. As I said,
what it is.
It is funny to see those comments because the things that they are picking on, it's like, that's why we got rid of that, because it would have stopped the match and we would have had to restart. And it's like, why would you do that when they're having an absolute battle here?
I mean, if I reffed WAF style and Rickett had have acted like he did in that match for the first 10 minutes, it would have been a 3-0, 4-0 to Brett. It would have just been over, and no one wants to see that. No one wants to see anyone lose a single round to fouls, let alone, an entire match. You spend 6 months training, heaps of money, time, effort, and then you go out on fouls. No one wants to do that.
No, especially the people who, the audience who are invested in watching the match and they don't get to see one. And it's even the slips can be quite frustrating to a degree when you've got somebody new watching the sport, and people they get the go, and then halfway through they let go, and it's like the person's like, well, what was that? Who won? It's like, no, they haven't. They've got to get strapped together now. Ah, okay. Whereas with fouls, it's like, somebody's about to win, or they're doing an absolute war back and forth, and then the referee jumps in. Stop. And it's like, what? And it's like, somebody's elbow moved up a tiny bit. And it's like, why did you stop the match for that?
Exactly. And that's where that experience comes in, both as a competitor and refereeing, I think, is that I can see an elbow move, and I know whether it's gained that competitor an advantage, or whether it's just, and it has to stop, or I have to call the foul because, that did help them, or whether it's just, it's just a visual thing, yes, his elbow bobbled, the difference between when you're trying to pin and your elbow coming up 2 millimeters off the pad versus when you're in a hook and you drag off the back of the pad, that's completely different. Now, if someone's trying to pin and the elbow comes 2 inches off the pad, that is different, because that is, that's a blatant foul, and it would actually give them an advantage. But just seeing a small amount of daylight between the pad and someone's elbow is you stop the match, and you might have stopped a 2-minute war. Both athletes collapse on the ground in a heap afterwards. and what, you got to call a foul. So.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, that's the frustration from the viewership side of it. And I remember a couple of years ago, you had put a link up in the group chat for the World Championships that were taking place, and you said, "Oh, I'm watching the World Championships." Oh, great! And so I clicked in. I'm like, "Oh, cool! This is World Championships." And I watched for about 10 minutes, and I was like, "This is really boring." I was like, I think I watched 3 matches. There was no pins. They were all entered in fouls. And it was like, man, I'm not enjoying this. as an
Yeah.
arm wrestling fan. I'm watching arm wrestling and I'm bored out of my mind. And this is the world championship.
Yeah. Yeah, it's WAF is definitely one of those things that's much better as a competitor. I think because of this, like what's at stake, like you're representing your country, you're literally in the room with the best people in the world that country can put forward, at least in a drug-free sense. When I say that, there's plenty of worlds that aren't drug-free, but, theoretically. And so there's a lot at stake there. And then as a competitor, you do want perfect refereeing. Like you don't want to go out, you've spent thousands of dollars to travel all the way around the world to represent your country. You don't want a referee going, oh, like I wasn't really sure, but I think it was a foul, so you're out. Like you want to make sure the referee is top notch, so it's a different vibe though. It's solely for competitors. It's not for people to sit there and watch and be like, oh, what a great night. Like it's 7 days solid of competition from like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Like thousands of competitors. It's just competition. It's not an event to go watch.
That is the big difference between what we're doing with AWE and what they're doing with that style of event there. Arm Historian has a comment here. He says, one thing about WAF from a content creator's point of view is that they're super cool about people using their footage.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, there's two things with that. One, if they knew how to use the internet, they'd probably track you down and try and ban you for using their footage. But two, you guys using their footage is the only thing promoting WAF, not in a Eastern European government way. Like they have next to no social media. I remember when we used to try get on WAF streams, you used to have to go on the WAF website. There wasn't a YouTube. I don't think they had WAF on YouTube when I first started. Maybe they did. They got it on shortly after, but it was like trying to find out when WAF was on. Like it's a world championships and you didn't know when it was happening. It was like you're literally like, I hear rumors on the internet that it's happening soon, and when is it? And someone would say one date, someone would say another, and you're just like, I don't know, I want to see this thing, but like, where is it? When is it? Like as far as the internet, like they probably sent out athlete packs to the people organizing the teams and stuff, but as just a random viewer, like you had no idea. I mean, now it's a lot better. Now they run like 8 different tables on YouTube, and you can watch them all at the same time. And yeah, it's quite interesting. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the times that you were watching, it was a pay-per-view event for one of the World Championships or something with WAF. And I think you had the camera on yourself and you were just talking about the matches. And then for a little while, you turned to the screen.
Yeah.
Just for like 1 or 2 minutes. And then like you get all these messages from like Russians going, you better not keep doing that. And like,
yeah, it was one guy in particular. I think he's Polish. He was involved with the event, but they were very on top of people sniping their stream. Like because he was watching and he's like, good on you, thanks for the sharing. And then I kept like turning around and showing, and he's like, stop doing that. He's like, you can film yourself and talk about it, but you cannot film the TV. I paid for the event, so I always believed in supporting the events and stuff like that. So I paid for it myself, but so many people in my stream like, can you show us the screen? Like, show us the match. I was just commentating. And he's like, if you do that, you will get banned. He's like, you will get blacklisted. So I didn't, I did the right thing, and they asked me not. But I know a bunch of other people have, and like I get it, like especially arm wrestling, people don't make huge money out of it yet, and it's you put a lot of work into putting an event on and hosting it. I mean, you as AWE, you and Dave, like I know you can't have results leaked early and stuff. It affects sponsorships and deals and things, all kinds of stuff. And if everyone knows who won the event and you try to sell like a pay-per-view or something like that, it's hard. Like people don't watch it, because I know who won, so It's yeah, it was fun.
Absolutely.
Fun times.
Yeah, well, there you go. I think maybe we might wrap things up here. It's been
Yeah.
great to be able to talk to you about the whole history of how the arm wrestling scene started here in South Australia and where you are currently. And you've been doing tremendous things. I wouldn't be here. None of us would be here if it wasn't for you. And I very much appreciate everything that you've done for the sport, and especially for me personally. You've always been a good friend and somebody that has helped me out in many situations. So thank you,
Thank you,
Tim
sir.
Graham, for everything that you've done.
Thank you very much. No,
All
it's
right.
been good. It's been good.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries. Well, we might wrap things up, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in and writing the comments. It's always great to see everyone. Look, there we go. We got the finishing touch on with the bicep of the Viking of Tim Graham. We'll give you a nice little double bicep here as well from. Oh, it is in the contract. We're just going to make sure that it gets done. All right, thanks, ladies and gentlemen. The outro video is just about to start. Apparently, it's loud, so get ready.